Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. As you can probably tell, we're at Brent's 5-inch gauge railway, and something I've wanted for a long time is a decent riding truck. So I've got quite a few different ones. I've never really settled on one that I really like and really enjoy using until now, because I'm actually sitting on my brand newly built riding truck based on London Transport's Inspection Saloon Florence Nightingale. So as you can see, it'll match my 20 Lovely. It's got a nice comfy seat, great seating position, and this is a kit from 17D Limited. So let's get into the video. All right everyone, this is Florence Nightingale, my Inspection Saloon, which is a modified 17D kit. So in this video we're going to go through what I did to build it, the design and how it all goes together, obviously the process of painting it up to this point. So you can see I've not put the glazing in just yet, and I've not painted the running boards. That's all still to come, but I didn't want to take too much longer getting the video out, so I figured we'd go to this point. So as I say, this is from 17D. They kindly got back to me when I said I wanted something to go with my London Transport Class 20. There are a few changes on this compared to the standard model, which I've carried out myself, mainly to do with the front end. And there is a door and window on this side, these two to be exact, that I've swapped over positions. That's nothing to do with 17D, that's just because there are different versions of the Inspection Saloons, so some are in a different place to others. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy the video. So we'll go back now to the start where I got the kit, and we'll go through the process of building it. So you can see I've got the chassis on the left, the body on the right, just up on my lifting table at the minute, because I'm hopefully going to get some primer and maybe some paint on the body today, because it's nice and hot, so it'll dry pretty fast. I've got this big box here with all the other components in, so you can see we've got the wheel sets and all the components for building the bogies. So these are the centre pieces of the bogies. These are the bogie side frames, they sort of bolt together. There's all nuts and bolts and fixings in there. There's bearings for the axle ends. There's all sorts of stuff. They've even included the perspex for the glazing, which is nice. So I'm going to be busy with this, and I thought I'd document building it. But first of all, I want to get some paint on there, because primarily I want to see some progress and see how it's going to look. But secondly, it will obviously stop the body from rusting, which is now going to be an issue if I don't get paint on it pretty sharpish. You can see there's a lot of finger marks on it and stuff, so what I'll do is I'll go over it with a Scotch-Brite pad over the whole body shell, and just make sure there's no contamination on there. But I'm going to paint it with Halford's acid etch primer, and then Ford Burgundy Red, which is the same colour that I did the London Transport Class 20. So that will be the livery. It's going to be London Transport Florence Nightingale, which if you haven't seen it before, because it does hide away in Ryedale Depot, I'll stick a picture of it up. And the reason it's not come out since being painted and refurbed is because apparently there's an issue with the door locking. So you can see it is a ride-on coach as well. It has these nice footrests, and they're very well designed. There's basically two pins that go through the chassis. You can just about see them in there. And these don't need to bolt in. You simply, with one hand, lift them up, and out they come. And that's it. And that's what you're left with. Just those two pins in there. So if I try and put it back in one-handed, you'd have to bear with me. There you go. That's it. So if you want to take them out for pictures, it's very easy to do. So I'm quite pleased with the setup of that, because I did wonder if they would bolt in or something like that. So I thought I might have to weld a bit of bar on here to have some foot pegs sticking out that I can easily remove, but they're easily removable as it is, so I'll probably stay with those. And yeah, it's all laser cut, obviously, and welded together nicely. So this is how it comes. This is exactly how I've received it. So you haven't really got to do any welding work. It's pretty much a bolt together kit. So you just got to paint it and finish it off. So looks really good. The body is again laser cut, same as the chassis. and it's actually got compartments in as well, which is nice. So at some point it'd be nice to get an interior in here, make some seats up, some doll's house armchairs might be about right, because these have armchairs in them. They're not fixed down seats, which is another problem supposedly with LT running theirs. They've got to get around that when having passengers on board. But for now, we'll obviously do the outside, and then at a later date, I'll do the inside when I get round to it. But again, with the laser cutting, you can see you've got the nice door recesses. You've got holes for all the handrails. The windows at the top are all in there. It's really nice. So I'm super pleased with this. And the body, if I try and lift it with one hand, just about. Go. The body just slots on top of the chassis, and you can see there the bolt holes basically all in the same place, so when you bolt stuff to it, it'll all sort of hold the body down. And there's obviously bolt hole positions on the inside as well internally, which if I just move that, you can see those ones line up there. They're just under there, so put some bolts through there and that'll be happy days. And the bogies obviously will be easy to get in. The only thing is, when it was picked up, we forgot to get the seat. So the seat and the roof are all one moulded piece. But I've got to get back in touch with 17D and just get the seat couriered down here, because obviously we need that to finish the coach. But for now, I'm going to get this sanded down and get some paint on it. So while I'm making an absolute mess in the garden with spray paint going everywhere, if you get time, check out 17D's website at 17d-limited.co.uk. It's limited as in LTD. On there you'll find different sections for 5-inch, 7¼ inch, and various spares, bits and bobs to build your own stuff. They also do diesel brake tender kits, as well as inspection saloons if a saloon isn't your thing, as well as various wagon kits and parts. So go and check them out. Right then, I've painted the chassis satin black, as you can see there, and I've now discovered a problem. So this side of the body, the LT version, has this window and this door the opposite way round. So I'm going to have to take it to Brent's, I think, and borrow Brian's angle grinder, chop them out, and weld them back in the other way round. Luckily I can weld, so it's not the end of the world. Weld. I've also got to cut these off. There were handrails on there before, which I don't need, so I'll smooth those off. And of course I need to fill all these holes on the front as well. Right, I've primed it, stuff it. I can come and grind the paint back off that corner to weld it, because it needs paint on it in a minute anyway to stop it rusting. So I'm getting carried away, and I want to try the colour out and see if it matches. Right then, this is what we had in the box. So aside from the body shell and the chassis and glazing and the roof, of course, this is what's left. So we've got 2 bags with all the fixings you should need. Obviously we don't really need to look at those right this second, so I'll just put them to the side on the floor. 4 buffers. They're actually very nice. I'm really impressed by these. Really nicely made. And to be honest, after seeing them, I wouldn't hesitate on buying a set for other projects. We've got this sort of fret here, which has got all sorts of bits like door handles, wipers, things like that. So a few detail bits that hopefully will go towards making the coach look pretty. Anyway, the rest of it's mainly for the bogies. So we've got the centre pieces here with the nylon blocks that sit between the bogies and the chassis to space it, and obviously nylon lets stuff move as well. It's nice and slippery. So yeah, they're the 2 centre pieces. You've got the 4 bogie side frames here, and they bolt in with these 3. Go on there. These plates, they basically go on the side of the side frames to give them a bit of support, stop them bowing outwards. So They should do the job nice. These are the axle box keeper plates. So once the axle boxes are in, they'll sit there. They stop them falling out the bottom. We've got dummy leaf springs, quite nicely done actually, just laser cut. They're quite smart. So obviously they'll have to be sorted out and go on as well. I think they go on there like that, I believe. So again, I'll have to find the fixings. I've got instructions for all this, which I will of course look through, but I'm just sort of getting a general idea. And you've got the axle boxes themselves, which are machined from a big chunk of steel. And they've got the nice little recess in there for the axle box springs for the primary suspension. And of course you've got the little tab in there to stop the spring pulling out and pinging across the floor. And these are of course machined internally as well for proper bearings, which you get here in a nice little tube, and they should just drop in. Might take a little bit of a push, but they do go in. There you go, like so. They're a nice snug fit, and of course they're also a good fit on the axles. There you go, you've got a nice little bit of play there, just in the assembly, but of course you need a little bit of slop, otherwise you're going to be derailing. The wheels themselves are really nice. They're all done to GL5 profiles, as you would want in this day and age, and they've got a disc welded in the centre for if you fit brakes. Currently I don't have the braking system. I didn't opt for it, partly because I didn't have the money at the time for the extra, but secondly because I want to try and do something a bit more discreet than a massive handle on the side. I want to be able to get off the coach and you not be able to really notice it, so I've got to come up with another solution, but obviously it's handy having the discs there already. But yeah, I'm going to dry fit the bogies together and just make sure I've got everything, and then I suppose we'll come back when it's done. Right, I've been looking at pictures and we've got to do a bit of modifying. So I've been doing a lot of measuring, and we've got to do 3 cuts in this because the window and the door are back to front compared to the coach I'm doing. There are different versions. So I've cut this so that when we put it all back together, this gap here stays the same, because it looks like it is the same as this on photographs. So it should be this width from here to this window. So obviously this window will sit here. So yeah, that gap will stay this wide altogether. Then the door will sit here, but it will have an even gap from this window to the door, and from the door back to this window again. So hopefully that's going to work out where I've scribed the lines on. So I measured it about 3 times and kept getting a different result each time, and then eventually got to this, which keeps seeming to come up right. So we're going to chop this up. Now I was going to go along here, cut along there just to save the sort of structure of the shell, but then I think it might just be easier actually to unpin this weld here, cut through that, and then basically just weld on back under here, because otherwise you'd have a whole line along here needing welding and it just becomes a bit silly. So it'll just save a mess. And the other thing is this frame for this window has also got to be chopped out, so that's another thing to do. But yeah, that's the next thing to do before we can make any more progress. So let's get that done. Another bit of cutting I've got to do is enlarging the centre window, and it should be square rather than rounded off. Some of them, again, have a bit of a difference there. So I've just marked it where I'm going to cut it. I'll have to get a Dremel or something to do this, because filing it take ages and it's so noisy. But yeah, that's going to have to happen as well. Brian's kindly fixing my mistakes, as always. So, obviously we took the plunge to cut the window and the door out and swap them over, as you saw. This is after a bit of messing around at home with some resin to build up the strength behind, and then I've used some filler over the top after a little bit of panel beating. And this is just the first skim, and then obviously some primer so you get the idea. And so far so good. I'm very pleased with this, how that looks. There are a couple little bits where it needs a little more filler, so another very light skim and I think we'll be good. Of course, the drawback is I've lost the shut line, which is laser cut in, but it's not something I was bothered about in the first place. All I do is I'll scribe down. I have got a mark on the top and the bottom under here somewhere. I did scribe in a mark, so I can go down with a ruler and just scribe that back in after, before I paint it properly. But yeah, really pleased. Obviously we cut the framework out of this window as well, because this one also should be open like this one, and then it should have an opaque window behind there. The other thing, I'll have to put the holes in this door for the handles. All I'll do is I will probably put a bit of paper over this one and then sort of draw over it and use that as a template so I know where the hole was, because obviously the hole is still there, it's just got a bit of filler and resin in there, so I'll have to draw that out, but that'll be no problem. We've got a little nip in there as well, which is where it was cut. Just a tiny bit of filler in there, and then we'll be happy just to finish that off. But yeah, you can see what I mean. We've got these little imperfections, little sort of divots, just because it was such a thick slab of filler that I put on it. Well, it wasn't that bad, but yeah, I'm just going to go over with a very light skim on those little areas and then sort of bring that out. While I'm doing that, obviously I need to fill in these areas as well, and all the little holes for where handrails and stuff are on the usual saloons, but of course mine doesn't need those. But yeah, very pleased. So next part of the build then is to tackle this central window. On Florence, it's quite an enlarged version. It's squared off, unlike some of the other saloons. There does seem to be various types. I don't know whether it was due to once upon a time having a door there or something, I'm not sure. But as I say, it's more squared off, and then also on the bottom lip it has an angle. So I'm going to do that. You can see I've marked it out where I need to cut it. I think these side windows are actually okay after I'm in an iron about them. I think what throws them off is this area here is actually quite shallow. It should be further up before the roof starts, but of course that's to account for the seat. So yeah, I think they're all right actually. But yeah, I'm going to get the grinder out and cut this section. I have actually done this one already, so you can see there it's a bit enlarged, and I'm quite pleased with that. There's a few little nips in it where I've got to chuck a bit of filler on the front. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this one, grind it out, and then hopefully you'll see the difference after. So there's a bit of a pig to get in there with the grinder. So done the best I can, and then I'm going to finish the rest off with a file to get it nice and rectangular. Of course, any little nips and stuff from trying to get the grinder in, obviously a little tiny dash of filler will sort that out and it will look lovely. Here's the result then. You can see the centre window has been enlarged, and we've got that little sort of angled lip on the bottom, as the real thing does. And after a little bit of filler, I think it looks pretty good. It's obviously never going to be completely perfect. My bodywork skills aren't the best, but that's just the first quick coat of the burgundy red. I'll flat that back off with a Scotch Brite and hit it with another coat. But I'm going to pop to Halfords and get another can of the paint, because I've only got one, and obviously it's quite a large item. In case you're wondering, for LT, this is the colour that I use for burgundy red. That is the same colour as my class 20 down there, so it should match quite nicely in the sun. That looks lovely. It is a little bit beaten up now, so it probably could do with another coat of lacquer over it really, maybe a wet sand at some point, just to bring it back up to scratch. But yeah, I'm just going to go get some paint now, and then we'll throw some burgundy red over it, and I guess we'll come back after that's done. There's the red painted then, and I think that looks extremely smart. I'm really pleased. So what I've got to do now is, because strangely on this the buffer beams are incorporated into the shell, I've got to put the buffers on now, and then of course I've got to mask off and then paint the black strip at the bottom for what should be the buffer beams. I was thinking about cutting these off so that they were bolted to the chassis and you had the sort of seam between the two, but to be fair, time wise I just don't think it's realistic right now. So it's something that I could maybe think about in the future if I decide it's something I'm not happy with. I can see why they've done it, because it's a lot easier obviously to do, and it means the body nicely slots over the chassis. But yeah, for now I am going to bolt the buffers on. I'll leave the clevis pins off, so I've got these nice clevis pins here. However, I probably will change these out at some point and file the whole square and add some nice coupling hooks instead, because that's just what I prefer. But these for now I can put a 3-link chain in and they'll be perfectly usable. So I'll leave those off just so that when I fit them they stay nice and shiny. The buffers need to be black anyway, so I'll bolt those in. They just use these little countersunk screws, little Allen key heads you can see, and of course they stick through the back, so the back of that plate is countersunk, so it'll stick through. Of course, the reason I'm fitting the buffers now is because if I painted all this and then put them on, by putting a spanner on this nut and tighten it all, you will ruin the paint, so you're better off doing it now. Oh, that should be cool. Got the transfers from Precision Labels. Thank you, John, if you're watching this. So this is the day after the payment was sent, so fair play. I mean, he's done pretty well. It's just that one packet. You can see there, we've got nice Forest Nightingale writing. Little cats jingling about in the background. On transport, we've got a little fire pull handle, and of course the other bits that we need. And then repeated on the other side, and we've got a set of spares as well. And a lot of lining to fit and join up, as well as the cream lining as well. It's going to be a right nightmare to do all of this, because there's a lot of it. It'd be easier if it was in like a roll, but it's obviously the limitations of printing transfers. However, this is cool, and this is obviously going to really set it off nice and make it. Right, we're all painted. It's transfer time. This is a nightmare. Wish me luck. That's all the transfers then, bar one. The final Florence, just on this end. Gonna do that now, and then we are ready for another coat of lacquer. So we made it to Gilling with Florence. We got it built in time. There's no glazing in it yet, and I haven't painted the footboards, but you can't win them all. However, this has proved to be an incredible purchase for me. I'm very, very pleased. Everyone that's been on it has been very pleased with it, and as you can see, it complements the 20 perfectly. So this is probably, to be honest, one of the best buys I've made in the hobby. I keep messing around, getting different riding trucks, trying new stuff, and I finally bit the bullet and got something proper. Super pleased with how it's come out. The colour match is pretty much bang on to the 20. It rides lovely, and the seat is very comfy indeed. So yeah, top marks 17D. I'm super pleased. passengers off.
All right.
So, we're going around with Florence now. I'm extremely pleased. It's very comfortable. It rides very nicely. Everyone that's gone on it has also been very positive about it. There's a few people also thinking about maybe putting an order in. So, obviously, it's been good to get it here. But yeah, I'm super pleased. So, I've got to say thank you to 17D for producing the kit. It's been excellent and it's gone together very well. Obviously, as you can see in the video, I've got a few little bits to finish on it. However, for now, super happy. So on that note, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and liked the end product. And if you can, go and visit 17D's website. I'll chuck a link in the description. Again, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel, chuck a like in, and please leave a comment below if you've got any thoughts. Hopefully I'll get this finished shortly. When I do, I'll be sure to post some more pictures on Instagram, Facebook and the like. So stay tuned for more. Cheers for watching. See you again.